SummerSlam 92 is an interesting SummerSlam because for like up until about June it was going to be in Washington, it was just going to be a regular SummerSlam, and then they make the decision to move it to Wembley, and it's going to be you and Bulldog. And then you guys have this match that now people talk about as maybe the greatest SummerSlam main event ever. The Intercontinental title headlines the show, 80,000 people. How did you find out that you guys were going to be working together, and where does that match kind of rate for you in your career?
What happened was Jim Duggan and Perfect were doing the commentary in those days with Vince, so they had to be let in on what was going on ahead of time. And both of them were good friends of mine. Both of them came to me and said, hey, we got the lowdown on what's going to happen at SummerSlam. And they told me, said, you're going to wrestle, it's going to be in Washington, D.C., and you're wrestling Shawn. And then Kurt was like, no, they told me that it's going to be SummerSlam. So they both said, it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be SummerSlam in England, in London, in Wembley Stadium, or it's going to be in Washington, D.C. at the arena they had there. And so I remember thinking about it, and I thought, shit. A guy knew when I won the belt from Perfect that I was probably going to drop the belt in the next 4 or 5 months or 3 months or whenever the time came that Shawn was ultimately being built up to be the next champion after me for the Intercontinental, which was fine with me. I thought Shawn was a good friend of mine back then, and he was can never take anything away from Shawn as a wrestler. He was a great wrestler, and so I was off. I said, no problem with that. I'm happy to do that. And so as it got closer, and I heard that it was either going to be Washington or it was going to be in London, I kept thinking about it, and I thought, you know what would be great is if I do wrestle in Washington, it might as well be Shawn, because he's the guy that they told me that I was be dropping the belt to. I said, well, it'd be great if we had a ladder match at Washington in Cap Center. I said, but if it's in England, a babyface match with me and Bulldog would be the way to go in Wembley Stadium. We could go on last at Wembley Stadium. So I went to Vince, and they hadn't made up their mind yet. And I said, I heard 2 stories. I said, it's either going to be in Wembley or London. And he goes, well, we haven't made up our mind yet. And I said, well, I just want to suggest a couple of things to you, which was quite good of me to offer to drop the belt, because nobody ever does that, because holding the belt means you make a lot more money. It means it actually does change your paycheck every week. Being the champion or Intercontinental or tag or any kind of champion is considered a main event, and you get paid better. But offering to drop the belt as willingly as I did to either Shawn or Dave was like made me look pretty good to Vince at being pretty magnanimous or whatever. And I said to Vince, I said, if I wrestle in Washington, let me wrestle Shawn in a ladder match. And he goes, a ladder match? What's a ladder match? I said, it's a match they used to have in Calgary all the time, and I started to describe it to him. I said, it's a great match for suspense if you do it right. And I've been telling Vince about ladder matches from the first week that I was in WWF as a suggested idea that they could do, that it was always a brilliant match up in my dad's territory, these ladder matches that we had for years up there. And I remember Vince goes, I've never seen a ladder match. He goes, show me a ladder match. Pick somebody to have a ladder match with. So I'm like, okay, I'll pick Shawn. So he goes, find Shawn, and I want you guys to have a ladder match tonight at the TV taping, and I'll see what it is. So I go to find Shawn, and I start to explain, I said, we're having this match tonight. Vince wants, it's just a demonstration match, just to show him what the point of the match is. He goes, okay, and I remember he was kind of almost a little nervous about what do we do in there, and I had to explain the whole thing to him. So we have the ladder match that night, and Vince, I remember I came back and he goes, I didn't see it, he missed it. He got Vince has a lot of meetings with everybody. Like, I think it was true, of course he could watch the tape back, so it was all taped. But he said, I didn't see it. And I think he was being honest. He was like, kind of mad that he didn't see it. And So he still didn't know what the ladder match was, although he could have just rewound the tape and watched it. But anyway, so I found out that through the next week or two anyway, that they had finally decided on Wembley. And that was when when I had talked to Vince about the ladder match. I also said the best thing to do if you were going to wrestle in England is put me in a babyface match with Davey. I said, we'll give you the best match. It'll be the best match ever. I said, I think I can give you the best match you've ever had in the company. So it became me and Davey at Wembley, and Davey, I knew, it's kind of hard to explain sometimes, but I knew I was really popular in the UK and Ireland and Germany and Europe in particular. I had a really strong popularity, and I just knew it. In fact, I would go so far as to say I was more popular than Bulldog even in England. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but I just think it's true. I was at the height of my popularity anywhere, and England totally embraced me, and I was a big star in England. And you have to know wrestling psychology sometimes. And I knew that when I wrestled Bulldog in Wembley, that when we walked out, people would know who's going to win. I think that's when you have that's when you're going to have a great wrestling match, is when you have two wrestlers that are going to wrestle each other, and you really don't know which one's going to go over. And that's where the excitement comes from. You want to see the ending, like what's going to happen, who do you think's going to win? And I knew with Bulldog that like once we walked out to the ring and we were face to face in the ring, there was this, like, all the fans were like, we don't know who's going to win this one, and became really everyone was riveted to every move, and that gives you the capability of having a 5-star match or even higher than that. But I think Davey lost. I think Davey thought that losing the match was like I was like move over to the side because it's my time now, and. Davey, like me, maybe the year before, was looking forward to being champion for a long time, and I'd step into that higher pay slot and all that stuff. And I don't know what Davey's problems were in those days so much, but he had a serious drug problem at that time, and he spent the whole summer doing drugs and doing cocaine. I can remember trying to call Davey. I called him and called him and called him all summer. And he would never return my call. I would never get him on the phone. I kept trying to talk to him about the match, because once I knew I was wrestling Davey at Wembley, I started strategizing and building this match, move by move, how it would start. The first move would be this, and then this would happen. I mean, I scripted the match in my head and sort of plotted out every move until I remember going, I've got the match in my head. Like, I've got it memorized. And now I want to call Davey and tell him, like, I got this great match. It's almost like coming up with a jingle or music, like a song or something. You write the melody, and it's like, I got Hey Jude in my head, and it's going to be the best song ever kind of thing. And it says, I got this match in my head, Davey, and I couldn't get a hold of Davey through the whole summer. 2 months to call, and I called him like sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. I didn't know what he was doing, but I know that it wasn't good, and that he was riding shotgun with Jim the Anvil, who had a serious cocaine problem at the same time. And I'm sad to say that I think both of them squandered their fortune of money that whole summer. They blew probably $500,000 each on cocaine. And I don't think that's an exaggeration either. They just had serious drug problem. And I remember when I got to Wembley, the Saturday, like when you watch the promo for SummerSlam with me and Davey, and I'm talking about Windsor Castle or something like that. That promo was done on the Saturday night and was put in the next day as an insert. And on the Saturday night was the first time I saw Davey in 2 or 3 months, because Davey took the whole summer off because he had a supposed injury, but I think it was mostly what he had was a drug problem. And So Davey, when I saw him in the dressing room on the Saturday night, I was like, why did you call me? I've been trying to call you, and I was pretty mad at him. And he just, sometimes Davey was like a little brother or a little kid to me. And I remember he just confessed, he goes, I'm fucked. And he told me, he goes, he told me he'd been up with Jim Neidhart for 72 hours. They'd been doing cocaine for 3 straight days, and he hadn't slept. And he barely made the flight to England. And then when he got off the plane in England, he had to do all this media, like interviews and newspaper, and he was being pushed by WWE media to do all these promos and stuff. Anyway, so Davey on a Saturday night almost like with a panic. He was like, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm fucked. And I remember I told him, I said, Davey, I said, this is going to be your finest hour. This is going to be the greatest moment of your career, and you're not going to fuck up now. You know, you're going to have to pull up your jock strap and get in there, and he goes, I'm going to lead you through the whole match, step by step, move for move. And I said, we're going to have the best match of all time, whether you like it or not. And he was all, and that's what I do love about Davey is he was really in no shape to make that match and do that match. He was so unprepared for it, but he sucked it up, and Davey delivered everything in that match. He didn't miss out on anything or screw up anything, or he was spot on for the whole match, and that's a credit to Davey. And we had that great match, but I knew in that match that the key to that match was, for me anyways, was the losing part. People always think that winning is everything, but I knew. I said I could see it. Like when I lose this match, I'm going to be the winner, not the loser. There's going to be a sympathy reaction, like a boomerang the other way. People are going to feel bad that they didn't cheer for me because they like me every bit as much as they like Davey, but they had to cheer for Davey because he's British. And I thought there's going to be a boomerang reaction to it. I'm going to become more popular than I've ever been just from losing this match. And that was where I think a lot of wrestlers don't have the right psychology. They worry too much about winning and losing and what it means. It's important to win sometimes, and sometimes it can be just as important to lose. And I knew it for me that day that it was important to lose in that way. It was very dramatic, and that it would be really powerful, and it would increase my popularity. And I don't think Davey got that. I think most people were thinking like this was Davey's big push, and Davey was going to be this big star after that. But I knew, I said, this is going to be the other way around. Like a month later, they came up to me and told me that they wanted me to win the world title. And I could feel it. From the time I had the match with Davey, I think I proved to myself and maybe most of the wrestlers in the dressing room and to the fans that I was as good as any wrestler in the company. And that's what people miss out sometimes.